is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host, Smitty. If you're watching over on YouTube, you'll notice that I look like a bald baby.
Horrible.
And
yeah,
I look horrible. I look like a chubby, just naked baby because I shaved my beard. If you've been keeping up on YouTube, you'll notice my beard's been getting longer and longer and longer over the past, 3 months. And now it's gone completely. My wife got sick of it, so you can blame her for having to look at my ugly face. If you're listening on the show, go give us a 5-star review and follow us wherever you're listening at. You don't have the pleasure of looking at my face, but you get the pleasure of listening to our voices. This is a Steelers show. I feel like the offseason is going by so quickly because the combine is already done, and now we're getting into really just full-on. We're approaching free agency and draft talk. I feel like the season just ended, but it's almost a month ago by now.
We're going to play a game today. This is very different than what we normally do. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our friends. I am wearing a shirt from Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley Wagner, small business. I'm rocking one of the Around the 412 designs. If you're interested in that, hit her up. We got her link down below. Haley Wagner, Everything Custom Designs. Also, right above Tyler, if you're watching on YouTube, Keeks Barbershop, our friend Christian Circle, his barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Look it up if you're in the area. Go get your haircut there. We actually know people that live 45 minutes an hour away that drive there just to get their haircut because they love Christian's work so much. He's got pictures right in the app. Download the app, The Cut. Book an appointment with Christian. Go check him out. Also, shout out to Tony that works there as well. Ashley that works there. Awesome place, like an old school feel to the barbershop. Wouldn't go anywhere else. I mean, Christian's one of my best friends, so obviously. But even so, even if he wasn't, I just love the vibe that place gives off. So go check it out. Teach Barbershop. But yes, we're going to play a game today. You brought this up to me today, and I love the idea of it. I didn't know how many people were going to be included in this game. Wasn't expecting this amount, but you were the one that came up with it, so you can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so it came out last week. I think it was last week that Omar Khan was talking about how the Steelers plan on rolling with Kenny Pickett as the starter for the 2024 season. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, the GM is going to say whatever he wants about the starting GM or starting quarterback that's currently on his team. Sure. If they go out and tomorrow and trade for Justin Fields, don't be surprised. But I will say, I do believe him to a certain extent as out of the quarterbacks that would be on the roster, the expectation, I think that Kenny Pickett will probably be the starter. So knowing that, I wanted to look at some of the options, whether it be free agents, people in the draft, and some of these are going to be unrealistic. Caleb Williams is on here, so we're not going to be drafting 1-1, but I have a list of 30 names, and it's just going to be Kenny Pickett or this player. Now, this isn't like a king of the hill, so it's not. We're not going to keep with whoever you ever decide. It's just going to be Kenny Pickett every single time versus.
Although I do like doing
these
a king
different
of the hill.
Quarterbacks.
That would be interesting too. But
we could do that in the future. We could do King of Hill in the future. This one all compared to Kenny Pickett. So we could just jump right into that. A couple easy ones I started out with, and then it's going to go mainly free agents and then get into the draft quarterbacks as well for the 2024 draft. So first one, Kenny Pickett or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, obviously. Kenny Pickett or Russell Wilson?
Ooh. Okay, this one isn't as easy, I feel like.
Why is it not as easy for you? Because I feel like a lot of people would think about the skill level of what you could get from Russell Wilson, and that would be an easy answer.
Sure. Well, so the base, the surface level numbers for Russ last year were pretty good, 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. But I feel like they didn't tell the whole story for the way that he played, and I also think it's a weird fit in the offense. He doesn't utilize the middle of the field at all. One of the least in terms of play action throughout his career. Hasn't used it a ton. I just think it's a weird scheme fit for him. Could he provide better play within it than Kenny Pickett? Potentially, but this might surprise some people. I'm leaning Kenny. I've talked about the idea of adding Russ to the quarterback room, and I would still do that because you're getting him for the minimum, and then Denver has to pay the rest of that. And if if those two go head to head in a true competition and Russ comes out on the other side of it as the starter, Okay, so be it. I don't know what the upside is for 1 year of Russell Wilson, as opposed to, maybe we are wrong and it really was just that much Matt Canada, and there is a little bit more there than we think with Kenny. There's not that question, obviously, that potential thought with Russ. You know what he is.
I guess I also should phrase this. This is also I went into this looking at like 2024 specifically. Now, obviously, that's going to affect some of the answers with like draft guys, but like I guess you could look into the future as well.
Okay, well here's the other side of it, right? Is there's a better chance of Kenny being so bad that it would finally, and again, like I don't see a world where this happens because we've seen bad quarterback play just as recently as last year and we still win 10 games. But like there's a better chance with Kenny that we would totally fall off a cliff and finally have a high draft pick, I think, than Russ. So it's like Russ is probably in the middle of those two and the safer one. But Kenny is either going to be much better in this system, and the offense is going to be levels above where it has been, and he's going to be levels above where he has been, or we're finally going to crater as a team and pick high enough to maybe secure a guy next year.
Okay, a guy that we talked about quite a bit on this show as of late, Kenny Pickett or Ryan Tannehill?
Pickett.
Yeah. It seemed like an easy answer for you.
It is. I mean, just because it's basically the same thing that I said about Russ on steroids in terms of my thought process with it. Like
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't even.
If this was Tannehill from 5 years ago, I feel like it's an easy Tannehill. But current Tannehill, I completely understand why. Now we're gonna get those are some easier ones or more vanilla ones. Now we're gonna get in some weirder ones. Kenny Pickett or Carson Wentz?
Pickett.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I can't really argue with that one. Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco?
Oh man, this one's fun. Joe
Flacco. I mean, he had a good run with the Browns.
He did. It's like I mentioned the thing with Ryan Tannehill was like Russell Wilson on steroids in terms of like why I didn't like the idea, or not necessarily didn't like the idea, but like I would rather Kenny just be the starter if that's the case. Flacco was the Mason Rudolph story from last year on steroids with what he did with the Browns. But, it was such a small sample size. Would he have that same success in this system? It'd be fun. Flacco.
Yeah. I honestly,
I mean,
from the sample size we saw in Cleveland and from what I imagine the Arthur Smith offense is going to look like I feel like it's going to be very run heavy. And it could cater to not having while I think it could do well with a mobile quarterback, I don't think they necessarily have to be mobile. That eliminates some things that you can do experimentally with the offense. But knowing that, like when he was in Tennessee, very run heavy with Derrick Henry, and then Joe Flacco last year having a very run heavy offense in Cleveland, I feel like that could fit pretty well. I would take Joe Flacco as well. Okay, another AFC North quarterback, Kenny Pickett or Tyler Huntley?
Pickett. I hope that we're past this Tyler Huntley thing.
Yeah, but was Pickett a Pro Bowler?
No, you got me there. There was a point in time where people just thought like Lamar goes down, Tyler Huntley can step in and do the exact same thing. I mean, I think that we've seen that that's not the case. It maybe in terms of guys around the league, he can do a better job than most in terms of emulating him. So the Ravens offense doesn't have to change their identity too much, but yeah, no, he is not a good thrower of the football.
Yeah, he's so poo-poo. If you know, you know. Kenny Pickett, and maybe I don't even know if this guy's going to be playing football in 2024, but maybe he is. Kenny Pickett or Tyrod Taylor?
Tyrod had some moments last year with the Giants too. I mean, everybody talks about the Tommy DeVito story, but there was a moment in time there where Tyrod was definitely their best option. Kenny.
Yeah, I feel like at this point in Tyrod Taylor's career, it's I'm going to take the younger guy.
If you ask me, right when he was like when Buffalo was going to Josh Allen, I'd probably take Tyrod, like that version of Tyrod.
Yeah. No, I can get behind that. Kenny Pickett or Marcus Mariota?
Oh man, You know why that's so interesting is because of the Arthur Smith.
Because of
like,
Arthur
with
Smith,
Mariota,
would it fit well?
with Mariota, that Atlanta team wasn't necessarily good, but their offense was like 15th, 16th in the league. Like they were a league average offense despite the lack of passing game because of what Mariota was doing with his legs. We actually saw that team. We saw Mariota in Atlanta.
I'll tell you, I'm taking Mariota personally because I think I like the fit with the offense better. And despite having not played a lot of good football recently, well, neither has Kenny Pickett. And so I would rather take the potential upside you get with Mariota's legs and the experimental stuff you could do with the offense than what we could have with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Just because we haven't, we've seen Mariota in this offense, we haven't seen Kenny in this offense.
Right.
So, like, again, that it's close, but I'm going to lean Kenny. I'm saying Kenny for way more than I thought I was going to when we said we were doing this.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we're going through a lot of free agent quarterbacks right now. There's not a lot of good free agent quarterbacks. We're just going through.
That's true.
Kenny Pickett or Drew Lock?
Kenny.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Kenny Pickett or Sam Darnold?
Actually, you know what, though? I will add this caveat to that. If Shane Waldron would have been the OC hire, maybe it changed. Maybe I would have said Drew Lock. Familiarity.
Okay.
Sam Darnold, to me, that is like as even as it could be. Like flip a coin for which one I'd take there. I'd like to, honestly, Sam Darnold is a guy that I would like to see added to the roster. Like if you're talking about guys that I feel like are realistic options, obviously like he has no reason to come in here and expect to be the starter. But I don't know if there's a drop off from Pickett to him. I'll say Pickett, but like again, it's a flip of the coin for me.
But I mean, Sam Darnold could be one of those guys that say they bring in a veteran starter or not veteran starter, but like a veteran quarterback and then another third guy on the roster. Like you would like to see Sam Darnold as that quarterback.
I mean, maybe I think he could go and be a backup somewhere else. I'm not sure if he would take a number 3 job, but yeah, like if you were talking about a situation where you're replacing that Mason Rudolph role from last year with Sam Darnold, I'd be fine with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, I mean, I feel like this is the obvious one. Kenny Pickett or Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, Baker. And you know what? I'm surprised he hasn't signed yet. And there's talks that they're not even close. I'm not sure what that's about. I thought, like, especially once Mike Evans signed, that meant there's a done deal with Baker. Like, why is Evans re-signing there, not knowing who the quarterback is? But yeah, if he's going to hit the open market, the Steelers aren't going to pay what he's going to go for a free agent quarterback, obviously. But yeah, I mean, if he's not going to be back in Tampa, I assume like Minnesota could definitely make sense. But Baker's the easy decision there. We've seen him. What a weird career. Like his rookie year was so good. Second year was so bad. 2020 was very good. 2021 and 2022 were kind of roller coasters. And then his 2023 was awesome. Maybe the best year of his career. So, but yeah, you've seen the high end flashes is what I'm saying. So Baker's the easy decision.
Yeah, I think Baker's an easy answer. I feel like I always thought he was a little bit overhated. And even whenever he wasn't playing that well, I just felt like people didn't he was like him because of the personality that he was. He was a number 1 pick. He's a quarterback in Cleveland. There was a lot going against him. I get it. But yeah, I would be surprised if Baker is not going back to Tampa. I feel like he had a lot of success there.
I just feel like he'd be done. I just thought it was gonna be done by now.
Yeah, I would expect the same, but especially with Mike Evans going back, like you said, like it makes too much sense for them to pair back up together, having the year they had last year. But yeah, I'd pick Baker in a heartbeat. Although I'll since I already mentioned this other guy, if you were the Steelers, would you swing low and try to get Baker if you're shelling out cash in free agency, or would you shell out for Kirk Cousins?
I'd rather have Baker than Kirk Cousins.
Just because of the cap?
I think everything. Youthfulness, not coming off an injury.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That is 100% true. Okay. Kenny Pickett or AJ McCarron?
I didn't even know AJ McCarron was still trying to play football. Kenny.
Well, he was in what was he in? Because he was on the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time. and then he was in the USFL or the XFL, or he was in one of those leagues, and then he got signed with the Bengals again. He might be.
Yeah, but I thought they I thought that they cut him, so I didn't even know what was going on with him from this point on.
He might be going back there. I don't know. He was listed on the free agents. Okay. I wanted to get to 30. But yeah, AJ McCarron, always a fan favorite of mine when he was at Alabama. I always thought that he was underrated at Alabama because of the surrounding players he had.
Almost the Browns quarterback, AJ McCarron.
Almost a Browns quarterback. The trade did not go.
Yeah, they didn't get the paperwork into the league in time. He was to be for a second round pick too. Man, Cleveland got lucky that that didn't go through.
Okay, Kenny Pickett or Gardner Minshew?
Gardner.
I agree. Gardner. The flash has been better with Gardner and the successes he's had. When
he might be like one of the best. He might be like the best budget starter. Like you're paying him to be a backup, but you're getting starter production from him, like low end starter production, obviously. But
yeah,
still.
All right. Kenny Pickett or Jacoby Brissett?
Kind of in that same realm, man. I don't know how I say yes to Flacco and no to Brissett. I think I'd lean Brissett.
I would as well. Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph?
This is the one that people are going to be upset about, regardless of what my answer is.
Yeah, I feel like there's a no-win. This is like a no-win answer because if you don't pick Kenny, that's going to piss off a lot of people that are Kenny stands, and then if you don't pick Mason, people are just going to point at the last 3 games of last season and question that answer.
Like, I feel like a lot of the time when I'm doing this, I could be talking about both sides of my mouth. Like I'll give a reasoning for one guy that doesn't make sense to not stick with that same thing for another guy. But like, how can I take Brissett and Flacco and not Mason Rudolph? But at the same time, like Rudolph has been at the organization since 2018. He's started enough games, I feel like, to know what he is. I don't think you can let that small sample size of the end of last year completely play into your decision. I would rather see Kenny get a look in this offense than Mason get a look in this offense.
Okay, I think that's fair. That closes out the free agents section of this. Now we're going to get into actually a couple trade scenarios. One definitely the less talked about nowadays scenario, but Kenny Pickett or Kyler Murray. I mean,
yeah, Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray's. You mentioned Baker Mayfield. I feel like Kyler Murray's kind of underrated now. Like people talk about him like he stinks. Yeah.
Well, they were legitimate. Legitimate. Yeah, the contract's not great. But I remember, was it last offseason? There were legitimate Steeler fans that were saying they would not want to take Kyler Murray, and I thought that was nuts. Like if there was a trade, obviously the return's got to be okay, and you got to be okay with giving that package up. But
well, you know what? He's about to get
as a player.
He's about to get Marvin Harrison probably. So we'll see. We'll see what next year looks like for him.
Yeah, Kyler Murray by a mile. Kenny Pickett or Justin Fields?
Oh man, he did it.
We've kind of talked about this in a way.
Gonna be on here. Yeah, I knew this was going to be on here. You know, the discourse surrounding Fields is so interesting to me because you would think that you're talking about a player that has played a lot better than Justin Fields has in Chicago. The way people talk about him from Pittsburgh, like I feel like a lot of the conversation we have about in Pittsburgh about Pickett is the way Chicago fans talk about Fields in Chicago. At the same time, I think Fields' ceiling is drastically higher. I think that he elevates the floor because of what he's able to do with his legs. So I'm taking Justin Fields because in this, this is just talking quarterback for quarterback, right? Like we're not taking into consideration the draft capital that it would have to take to get him or a potential contract. We're just talking about which quarterback we'd rather have. And the quarterback I'd rather have is Justin Fields.
I agree with that. I mean, I feel like we have definitely aired our grievances with a Justin Fields trade. But
Sure.
we're not talking about the trade. We're just talking about the quarterbacks. But we've also aired our grievances with Justin Fields himself, as a player. But we kind of, I mentioned that we had kind of answered this before, just because we've talked about Justin Fields as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now, we never necessarily said whether we'd have him or Kenny, but we kind of answered the question in my eyes when we said, I think it was last show, that it would be more exciting to watch Justin Fields on Sundays than it would be to watch Kenny Pickett. Or I don't think we named Kenny, but like we definitely said that it would be more exciting to go to a game and watch Justin Fields at quarterback. Whether it's good or bad, it would be more exciting to watch. For that, I would also pick Justin Fields. I do think from what we've seen so far, even though the lows have been low for both of them, I do think the upside is definitely higher with Fields. If you could hit on him in Pittsburgh, and really turn around his career and hit the pedigree that he has as a first-round pick. But yeah, I don't think that it's like a slam. I don't think it's a slam dunk Fields like a lot of people would think.
No, it's funny too. Two of the quarterbacks we've brought up here are amongst the, I think, 5 or 6 total quarterbacks, first-round quarterbacks that have a negative EPA in each of their first 3 seasons. Both Sam Darnold and Justin Fields fall into that category. And guess what? Kenny Pickett had a positive EPA in his rookie year, so he cannot fall into that regardless of what happens this year.
Okay, well, this is off the list. I'm going off the cuff, and I'm going to guess as one of the other quarterbacks.
I don't.
Kenny
Pickett
Pickett or Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson is on there.
Yeah, so Kenny Pickett or Zach Wilson. This is not one of the 30 names I had, but I'm just going to throw it in there now.
Oh. Okay, I thought you were trying to guess people that were on the list. So Zach Wilson or Kenny Pickett? Man, I just think Zach Wilson's broken. Like, I don't know that he's going to go any. Like, I just think there's been too much damage done to him in New York. I'm going Kenny. I could see why people would say Zach Wilson. I can't do it.
Yeah. I don't think that those are either great options, and I agree with you that I think that Zach is a bit broken. And I do think that it has to be because he's with the Jets. That's just a black hole of a system to go to.
There's 6 quarterbacks on here: Joey Harrington, Kyle Bowler, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields.
$40 million Daniel Jones, by the way.
Do you have Daniel Jones on the list?
No, I don't.
Because that could, I mean, if the Giants take a quarterback at 6, there's been some talk about Drake May falling a little bit. He could be in their range, or they could go JJ McCarthy higher than some people think. I feel like it's not like after the combine, that's kind of the talk is he's going in the top 10 regardless. So I don't even know that that's necessarily saying he's going to go much higher than we expect at this point.
Okay, what's funny? What's funny is we're getting into the draft people, and I don't have Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels on this list. I thought I did, but I feel like those are obvious. We're taking all 3 of those guys over Kenny Pickett.
Sure. I mean, obviously there's the mystery of what they would do, but you're also resetting the rookie contract with those guys. So
yeah. Okay. So then we'll go with some of the not as sure ones. Bo Nix or Kenny Pickett.
Kenny. I mean, they're the same play. Like, if I think Bo Nix, his NFL comparison should probably be Kenny Pickett. Like, we have Kenny Pickett at home already. And it's Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett or Michael Penix Jr.
Kenny. I'm not like, I know that those guys are getting some buzz. I don't see either one of them as more like Michael Penix has an NFL arm for sure, but like everything else just worries me. Like if you were just talking about the arm itself, he's a first rounder, but everything else about him scares me. So Kenny above him as well, but that one's closer. I like him more than Nix.
The one guy we were just talking about, Kenny Pickett or JJ McCarthy?
McCarthy.
You like McCarthy?
I like him, don't love him. I understand, like, there's not, like, when you watch him, right, there's not, like, a ton to take away from it, but, like, the high-end flashes are so high. Like, it's a tough evaluation because of how well they run the ball, the level of competition that they were playing. They're constantly blowing teams out. They didn't ask him to do a lot, but third down, red zone, he was the most efficient quarterback in the country when they put the ball in his hands in those situations. So, and I don't think he had necessarily a great receiving core. Roman Wilson's a good player. He's probably going to go in the first couple rounds. The run game was really good as well, with Donovan, Edwards, and Blake Corum. Pretty solid offensive line as well. But yeah, I really like what he does out of structure. I think that there's more to build around with him than with Kenny Pickett. So I do like JJ McCarthy. I think the first round certainly makes sense. Top 10 is where I did a little, maybe I disagree with that, but he should be a first rounder in my opinion.
Okay, this is where it really starts to try to get into a crapshoot, and it's probably just going to be Kenny Pickett for all these guys. So we'll just go really fast. Kenny Pickett or Spencer Rattler?
Pickett, but that is the one that could be better in my opinion. The rest of them are
okay. So Pickett over Michael Pratt.
Yeah.
Pickett or Jordan Travis.
Pickett
or Sam Hartman.
Oh, Pickett.
Shout out to Eddie Providence. Pickett or Joe Milton.
Kenny Pickett.
But that throw though, that combine throw.
What's funny, I put a tweet out that day, and I was like, "What we knew before today, Joe Milton has a cannon for an arm. What we learned from today, Joe Milton has a cannon for an arm. Nothing that happened surprised anybody."
Yeah, but I mean that video with him pointing at the end, that's got to raise him by at least like a
backflip
round. Yeah,
the back.
I mean,
listen, I think that he is worth somebody taking a shot on, back end of round 4, early round 5. The Steelers are not that team because of a few reasons. First off, do you trust this coaching staff to get the most out of a guy like that? I think the perfect spot for him would be like the Rams, right? Where you have Matthew Stafford in place right now, and you got a really good coaching staff that has developed quarterbacks in the past. So I think a place like that makes sense. Excuse me. Or if Minnesota was re-signing Kirk Cousins, that wouldn't be bad either, in my opinion. But I just don't think that's happening.
Okay, last few here. Kenny Pickett or Taylor Tagovailoa?
Wait, the Tagovailoa is coming out?
Yeah,
you said in the draft. Yeah, okay, Kenny. I was like, wait a minute,
not Tua. his brother Taylor Tagovailoa plays in Maryland. Kenny Pickett or Devin Leary?
Kenny Pickett. Is that the South Alabama kid?
No, Devin Leary is Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Kenny Pickett or Austin Reed? That's the Western Kentucky kid.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. I mean,
this one I threw on here just because it's funny. Kenny Pickett or Keaton Slovis?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. Hey,
Slovis though.
All right, yes, man.
Bro, you're telling me, as a BYU fan, I went into this obviously I don't think that Slovis is going to be. He might not even be drafted. But if he is, it's going to be 6th, 7th round. But you're telling me that in a 40-yard dash, Keaton Slovis is faster than not only Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall at quarterback position, but he's also faster than Puka Nacua in a 40-yard dash. Puka last year ran a 4.57, and and he ran an official 4.55. You're kidding me? Keaton Slovis, why were we not doing the speed option way more with Keaton Slovis?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me.
I don't know, but that to me that he ran a 4.55 is the perfect explanation. If someone asks, why is someone fast but they're not quick? That is the perfect explanation. You watch Keaton Slovis' game film, it looks like sometimes that his feet are stuck in the mud, but I guess in a straight line he can run fast. That was so weird. And last one, I'm actually curious of this answer. Kenny Pickett or Tom Brady coming out of retirement?
I thought it was gonna be Ben Roethlisberger. Man,
no, I wanted to pick somebody that actually get into game shape by fall.
I was gonna say Tom's still probably working out.
That's what I mean.
I feel like he hasn't lost that regiment. I'm gonna say Tom.
I would say Tom too. The GOAT. You kidding me? I'm gonna pick. I pick Tom over most of the quarterbacks in the NFL probably.
Yeah. We didn't really have any questions other than Ken Sterner asked if Cody will finish his story at WrestleMania. Not really Steelers related, but I'm just bringing it up now because most people watch or listen to this show if they're going to listen to one of the three. And the answer is yes. Cody will finish his story at WrestleMania.
Cody Rhodes, I'm assuming.
Cody Rhodes will finish his story at WrestleMania. So that's been the big thing since he came back, is finishing his story. His dad never won the WWE Championship. So listen, okay, his story is finally winning the WWE Championship for his family. His dad held it in Madison Square Garden, and then it was stripped away from him before he could do anything with it. So, his family has never got to hold the WWE Championship. So that's been the story since he came back in 2022. Here we are 2 years later. It hasn't happened yet. He lost to Roman at WrestleMania last year. Everybody was shocked by it. He went back-to-back Royal Rumble. Originally didn't look like he was going to choose Roman. It looked like he was going to be Rock Roman. And they've switched course. Yes, I say switched course because people are trying to make it seem like it was within the plan all along. It was not the plan all along to do this. The fan backlash made them do it. So we're getting Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again at WrestleMania 40. Night 2, by the way, Saturday and Sunday. It's 2 nights in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40. I will be there with some of my boys to see it. So hopefully Cody does finish the story, Ken.
I knew some of those words that you just said. But that concludes the game. Yes. And I think that concludes the show, honestly, because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about Steelers-wise. But yeah, let us know.
Oh, listen, if you're still watching or listening, this is where you get some exclusive stuff every once in a while. It doesn't happen frequently enough for us to do it as like a regular segment. But what I'm hearing is what we can call this. So over the past, week or so, basically, I think maybe the day after we recorded our last episode, heard some stuff coming out of the combine. So we'll start there. We'll go in the order of the latest the farthest away that they've happened to the most recent. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I jump on afternoon drive. Alan and I were talking about stuff. The Steelers were showing interest in Theo Johnson. There was some talk about Jonnu Smith, obviously. They showed interest in a Jaheim Bell, who's a tight end that's coming out this year, who, it's funny, his mock draftable and his RAS are basically identical to Jonnu Smith. So if they're looking for another Jonnu Smith for Arthur Smith's offense, there it is. But brought the question Pat Freiermuth. And so I was asking around a little bit because we were talking about it. And someone that was at the combine said, there's been a lot of chatter about this, that the Steelers have said he's available for the right price. Pat Freiermuth, 1 year left on his deal, probably a hard contract to really evaluate. You look at the injuries that he suffered. Obviously, he's had a few concussions, not super productive within this offense ever since his rookie year, where he had 7 touchdowns with Ben. And it's just like you're seeing these tight ends get paid. Like, he could probably reasonably ask for something like a Cole Kmet contract, but like with what he's done on the field, like the Steelers really probably are saying, we're not going to give you that. But like from his perspective, that's the type of player he is. He just hasn't been able to put it on display due to the offense he's playing in. So it's interesting, that one. The Diontae stuff, to me, is very interesting as well. And, I think that we have a discussion basically every single year regarding Diontae Johnson. I'll say, based off stuff that I heard, this is the first time I'm putting credence into it. And it would not shock me if he gets traded. And I'll even throw a couple teams out there because of the person that I was talking to and some of the connections they have. Buffalo is a team to watch. You're seeing them clear out some cap space just over the last couple days as well. And the New York Giants are a team to watch as well. I know there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Diontae wants to be here. Last year got ugly. That's what I'll say regarding it. There were several times where a non-wide receiver had to go into wide receiver meetings to calm Diontae Johnson down. There were times where George Pickens wasn't at wide receiver meetings last year by choice. It was not a pretty situation, largely why Zach Azzani is the new wide receivers coach and Frisman Jackson is no longer employed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So going into a contract year again for another guy here in Diontae Johnson, I'm not so sure he wants to attach a contract year and a potential another big payday to this offense in 2024. So from his perspective, I get it. I do think he is the one pushing to be moved.
I get it from that perspective too. If he's going to be going into a contract year with this offense, that quarterback, yikes. But
yeah. And so we're talking about a potential couple of subtractions there. So let's talk about a potential addition. I think Jerome Baker is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Recently released by the Miami Dolphins. They had pre-draft interest. I got 2 texts from 2 different people last night and this morning that said, yeah, pretty sure Jerome Baker's happening. 2 people that are not affiliated with us at around the 4-2, Steelers Now, anything. That said that. Mark Caboli also put out there for what it's worth, and somebody that's super connected to the team, and you guys know the name of, said he would not be surprised at all if Jerome Baker became a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I'll throw that one out there. It's something that I've heard. There's going to be interest for sure. And with him being released, they don't even actually have to, like, he could come in right now if he wanted to. So I like that fit a lot too. He's played with Landon Roberts in Miami in the past. And I think if you're talking about him and Landon and then Cole Holcomb, whenever he's ready to go, you look at last year with the 3-man rotation they had with Holcomb, Landon, and then Quan Alexander. I mean, I love Quan, all respect to him. Jerome Baker, to me, a little bit of an upgrade there in terms of that other guy in the rotation.
I think that would be good. Considering that currently on the roster, I would probably account and say that the Steelers have 1.5 linebackers on the inside. The one is a Landon Roberts, and the half is Cole Holcomb because he is still recovering from his injury. I'm not counting like
he
Mark
is running
Robinson and company.
Holcomb is running. I know he's been at the facility doing some light stuff, but I would anticipate he misses the early part of like mini camp and stuff. Training camp, maybe he is ready for, but I wouldn't expect him to do anything in like the spring and early summer.
Well, I think this would partially go with what we talked about last week, maybe, whenever we were talking about where we think that some of the additions to the team could be coming from, whether that be free agency or the draft. I think we both agreed that we assessed like the linebacker position would probably come over and from free agency over the draft.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and I think that that's a good idea. Like linebacker and safety, to me, I would certainly be dipping my toes in the free agent water as opposed to the draft, just because of the way that their needs line up, the limited picks that they have. I would rather, I know that they need a long-term solution there eventually at linebacker, but like I'm kicking the can down the road another year just because of the shape that the roster's in. And you know, Jerome Baker hitting the open market. You know, I know he had some injuries last year, a wrist and something else, I believe, that ended up ending his season, but really good player. Yeah, and like I said, the pre-draft interest is always a telltale for the Steelers. So I would, if you're a Steelers fan, I would definitely go watch some Jerome Baker right now to see what we're getting into.
There it is. Any other what I'm hearing or what you're hearing?
No, I think that's it. I'm not saying either of those aforementioned guys are getting traded for sure. I'll be less surprised if they trade Diontae than Pat, because I think they're different situations. I think Pat is a case where they're curious as to what they get. I think Diontae, they're worried it might end up be like getting very ugly and be necessary to move.
Well, Pat is going to be one that I would be surprised at if it ends up happening. Just because as far as tight end play goes, there's like, they didn't really show Darnell Washington as a big part of the receiving room of like, the tight ends.
If you trade him,
I have no idea what they're going to do for tight ends.
If they sign another one.
When they trade for Justin Fields, they can also trade for Cole Kmet, because Cole Kmet's been his number one target. So I think that
it's Freiermuth part of the trade.
I think it has to be. I think that's a done deal. They're a package. We'll take we'll give you a third and a conditional 7th, but you also have to give us Cole Kmet.
I think you would have. I mean, I think Cole Kmet would fetch a larger pick than Fields. It'd probably have to be like Freiermuth, a 3rd and a 4th, or something like that for Fields and Kmet.
Either way, if Justin Fields is coming and you're getting rid of Freiermuth, you have to bring in Cole Kmet. That's in my eyes. Diontae Johnson, I mean, I've been a strong defender of him. I know you have as well, but if that's going to be if that's going to be toxic in the locker room and it's going to affect not only just his play, but like the Steelers locker room as a whole, I don't want that there. And I understand why that they would
I think you're
explore
going
that
to
trade.
see going forward. Obviously, they're going to do what they do with the guys on the roster right now. I think you're going to see them have a very different approach at receiver going forward after this. I think that's why you bring in guys that are like disciplinarians, super hard coaches, and get the most out of their guys from that perspective in Arthur Smith and Zach Azzani. Like Zach Azzani is notoriously a very hard coach on receivers. You got to be able to block. Like
Shout out
Diontae
George
Johnson. If Diontae Johnson wasn't on this roster already, they're not bringing in a guy like that to add to the roster. Like he just doesn't, in my opinion, fit the offense. As far as value, it wouldn't surprise me if it wouldn't be any higher than a second. It wouldn't be any lower than a fourth. Let's meet in the middle. I think it'd probably be a third. Either a late 2 or like a low to or a high, depending on how you want to look at it. Either a late 2 or an early to mid third.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes it even more important for receiver in this draft if they do move on from Diontae.
Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense, right? After knowing that information, it starts to bring to light why they're meeting with early receivers. And Rome Odunze's nuts. Like the fact that they met with him and used one of their formal meetings on him, that's insane. Like,
what are we trading up?
I mean, that's the only way to do it. He's going to go top 10, probably he might go top 6. Like,
can you imagine? We trade up for a receiver.
Won't do it for a quarterback, but yeah, we'll do it for a receiver when we notoriously can find receivers day 2 and 3.
Yeah. You just draft his teammate, McMillan.
Yeah. Hey, I put him in. Oh yeah, we did it around the 412 mock draft today that I put out, so you can go check that out. Let me know how you feel about the picks. I know that you were happy with it, but maybe I didn't take a tackle as early as some people would, so that would be the gripe. But I thought I came away with a decent haul still.
I thought it was pretty good. Here's what I'll say about that draft specifically. I feel like in the first round you got to go center over tackle because you don't have a starting center. You have starting tackles. Whether you love your starting tackles or not, that's a different question. But you can at least open up the 2024 season with the tackles you have. You can't do that with the centers you have.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. All right. I think that'll about do it. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit us in the comments. Let us know how you feel. Listen, I don't expect you to go through 30 names and play the Kenny Pickett game in the comments like we did. But let us know which ones you agree with or don't agree with or most egregious to you for sure. And if you stayed and listened to the whole thing, you got a little bit of info that maybe you didn't have coming into listening or watching this episode. So follow us everywhere at Around the 412. Check out the description of the show wherever you're watching or listening. Everything Custom Designs. If you're watching, I've been wearing the Around the 412 shirt from Everything Custom Designs that Haley Wagner made for me. The link is in the description. Go check it out. St. Patrick's Day coming up. She's doing that. I think she's still taking orders on that. I don't know how quickly she can get stuff out then if she's still taking orders for St. Patrick's Day, but that just goes to show you, going forward for Easter. Get some summer attire, whatever you're feeling, just no hats. Obviously, we say that every episode, but then again, shout out to Keats Barbershop, our sponsor, at Keats Barbershop. Very easy to find, just the name itself. Right above Tyler is the logo. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.